Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving deep into something super important,
Hmm.
especially if you're in healthcare leadership.
Right.
We're going to be looking at wellness initiatives for nurse leaders.
Okay.
You guys sent in a bunch of articles and visuals on this,
Yeah.
and honestly, I'm already kind of fascinated.
Really?
Yeah, this isn't just about,
What, like bubble baths? Right.
Yeah.
Like face masks and meditation apps and stuff. We're
So,
talking about real strategies and even like
oh, wow.
system-wide changes that could honestly change how we support,
It's quite the well-being.
yes, the well-being of all those leaders in healthcare.
It's interesting, because we put so much emphasis on patient well-being,
Oh, absolutely.
which of course is super important, but
Of course.
sometimes it feels like we forget about those folks on the front lines,
Yeah.
the ones actually leading those care teams.
Mm.
And from what I've seen in these articles you sent,
Uh-huh.
neglecting their well-being, that can have a big impact. For sure, the research paints a pretty clear picture of what nurse leaders are up against these days.
What do you mean?
I'm talking long hours,
Oh, yeah.
constant pressure to keep their teams happy, but also meet the organization's goals.
Right.
And on top of that, healthcare is always changing.
Always.
It's a lot to handle.
Yeah, no kidding.
But one thing that really stuck out to me,
What's that?
this idea that being flexible with scheduling, it's not just a nice perk.
Oh, interesting.
It can actually make someone a better leader.
Huh. What do you think about that?
I think it's fascinating. What about you?
It's definitely a new way of thinking, and thankfully it's gaining traction for
Yeah.
so long. Being a leader, especially in healthcare, meant you were always on, always working.
Right.
But this research suggests that flexibility, if it's done strategically, it can actually make you a better leader.
Really?
Yeah, it helps people manage their, life and work better.
Makes sense.
Less stress, better focus.
Right.
There's even one study that found that
Right.
nurse leaders who had more control over their schedules
Okay.
ended up liking their jobs more and felt like they were better at them too.
That makes total sense if you're always burnt out and overwhelmed.
Right.
It's got to be hard to be a good leader.
For sure.
The articles also talk about what happens when we ignore leader well-being.
Oh, yeah.
Burnout's a big one, obviously.
Of course.
But it goes even further than that.
In what way?
Like decision-making gets worse.
Yeah.
More mistakes, harder to motivate teams. People even quit more often.
Ugh. It's like a domino effect.
It is. It creates this bad cycle where the people we need to be strong leaders
Yeah.
are barely keeping their heads above water.
That's a good way to put it.
One of the articles had this problem and solutions section.
Okay.
And it basically said, if we don't fix this, it's not just the leader who suffers.
Right.
The whole system feels it.
Wow.
But the good news is these articles offer some pretty good solutions.
Like what?
They call them wellness initiatives.
Okay, so not just like adding a yoga class or giving out gym discounts.
Exactly. They're talking about a much bigger approach.
Holistic, I think they call it.
Yeah, recognizing that well-being is the foundation for everything else.
Interesting.
Oh, and you sent this awesome visual. It's an image of a brain.
I remember that one.
But instead of like the usual brain stuff, it's got all these flowers growing out of it.
Oh, that's right.
It's like what a healthy mind actually looks like.
Such a cool way to show it.
Right.
Yeah, it really makes you think that when we take care of ourselves, our minds can really thrive.
Yeah.
The research actually points to 3 main benefits from these initiatives.
Oh, what are those?
Less burnout, better decisions, and stronger leadership overall.
I like that.
Yeah, and something that really resonated with me from all this,
What's that?
this idea that when leaders make their own well-being a priority,
Yeah.
it actually inspires their teams to do the same.
Oh, that makes sense.
There is this great quote that said, "Leaders who prioritize their well-being create a ripple effect that spreads throughout the entire organization."
Wow, that's powerful.
It really is. It's about creating a culture where well-being isn't just something we talk about.
Yeah.
It's something we actually live and breathe at every level.
Oh, and that reminds me of that leader's compass visual.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Can you explain what that is?
Sure. It's basically a framework
Yeah.
to help us understand all the parts of a well-being program for nurse leaders.
Gotcha.
Think of it like a compass, with each point representing a different area to focus on.
Cool. So let's break those points down.
All right.
First up on the compass is flexible scheduling.
Mm-hmm.
We touched on this earlier,
Right.
but what would that actually look like?
It's more than just working from home sometimes.
Okay.
Think like maybe you work 4 long days instead of 5.
Oh, interesting.
Or you can start your day at different times.
I see.
It's about giving people options so they can manage their time and energy better.
Gotcha. And then there's work-life balance programs.
Right.
What are some examples of those?
Well, there's this hospital system in the Midwest.
Okay.
They have on-site childcare and elder care.
Wow.
It really helps their nurse leaders stress less.
Yeah,
And it made it easier to attract and keep good employees.
that's great.
Other things could be like workshops on stress management or how to manage your time better,
Right.
having clear rules about not working after hours,
Yeah, I like that.
even providing resources for financial planning or legal stuff.
Oh, to help with stress outside of work.
Exactly.
It sounds like the key is to be proactive and give a bunch of different resources
Mm-hmm.
to help with the different needs of nurse leaders.
For sure.
Another point on the compass is wellness programs tailored for leaders.
Yep.
That seems especially important because leaders face such unique challenges.
Oh, absolutely.
This is where things like mindfulness training or resilience workshops
Mm-hmm.
or even just support groups led by other leaders could be really helpful.
Exactly.
Like creating a space for leaders to connect, learn from each other,
Yeah.
and build the skills they need to deal with all the pressure.
Right.
There's this group of hospitals in California.
Okay.
They have a program specifically for nurse leaders.
Oh, wow.
It includes coaching, mentoring, and even retreats focused on stress reduction and leadership.
That's amazing.
It is, right?
Yeah.
And of course, we can't forget about mental health.
Of course not.
It's another crucial point on the leader's compass, access to mental health resources.
It's a shame there's still such a stigma around mental health.
Yeah, especially in healthcare.
It's like we expect healthcare professionals to be immune to stress.
Right. Like they should just be able to handle it.
Exactly. And that's just not realistic.
Not at all.
We have to create a culture where it's okay to talk about mental health and to ask for help without feeling judged.
Absolutely.
Organizations need to provide easy access to confidential resources,
Like what?
employee assistance programs, on-site counseling, or even partnering up with mental health providers.
I agree. It's about understanding that supporting mental health
Yes.
isn't just the right thing to do.
It's essential for a healthy workforce.
Exactly. But what about those of us who might not have access to those kinds of programs? What can we do as individuals to focus on our well-being?
That's a great question, and there's a lot you can do right now, even without fancy programs.
Really?
Absolutely. So one of the simplest things you can do is to actually schedule breaks throughout your day.
Oh, like actually put it on my calendar.
Yeah, and I don't mean just grabbing coffee at your desk
Right.
or scrolling through your phone.
I do that.
I'm talking about really stepping away from work,
Like completely.
even if it's just for 5-10 minutes.
Huh, okay.
No, I know.
I'm so bad at that, I just try to power through my to-do list.
A lot of us do.
But you're right, breaks probably do help.
But they do. There's research on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one study found that even short breaks can really lower your stress. Wow.
Help you focus better. Even make you more creative.
Huh. Interesting.
Something as simple as taking a 10-minute walk outside can make a difference.
Okay, a 10-minute walk. I can definitely do that.
See? What else?
Think about your workspace.
My desk.
Yeah, make sure you have a comfy chair, good lighting, and that it's not too cluttered.
Oh, like physically.
Yeah, it can actually affect your mood and how much you get done.
I never thought about it like that.
It's true, a messy space can lead to a messy mind.
Uh-huh. That's a good way to put it.
And speaking of the mind, mindfulness can be really helpful too.
Mindfulness, like meditation.
Yeah, even a few minutes of deep breathing can make a difference.
Okay.
It helps you center yourself and handle stress better.
Right.
There's some great apps out there for that.
Yeah, I've tried a few of those.
And a lot of hospitals are starting to offer mindfulness sessions for their staff too.
Oh, wow. That's great.
It is. It's amazing how just a few minutes of being present can change your whole outlook.
I know what you mean. Sometimes it feels like there's just not enough time in the day
Exactly.
to get everything done, let alone focus on my well-being.
Right, and that's where good time management comes in.
Time management. Oof, that's another one I'm bad at.
It's more than just making lists and sticking to a schedule.
Oh, okay.
It's about being intentional with your time and knowing when to delegate.
Oh, see, delegation is something I really struggle with.
I get it.
It just feels easier to do it all myself.
It's a common trap for leaders,
Is it?
especially in healthcare where everything feels so important.
Yeah, that's true.
But you don't have to do it all.
I know.
When you let your team members take on more responsibility,
Yeah.
it not only frees up your time, but it also helps them grow and feel more invested.
That's a good point.
It's all about building a strong team and making sure everyone feels supported.
That makes sense. So we've talked about things individuals can do,
Right.
But what about the organization as a whole?
Good question.
What can healthcare systems do to really make well-being a priority?
It starts with recognizing that well-being is not just some extra thing.
Okay.
It's essential, it's strategic.
Like it should be part of their mission.
Exactly. They need to make it part of their values, their policies, everything.
And that's more than just offering a few wellness programs, right?
Right. It's about creating an environment where well-being is everywhere.
I see.
From how they train leaders to how they evaluate performance, even how the workspace is designed.
Wow. So like a total shift in thinking.
Yeah, for example, there's this hospital system on the East Coast.
Right.
They totally redesigned their break rooms,
Oh, I like.
made them into spaces for relaxation and rejuvenation.
Oh, that's nice.
They even brought in a nutritionist to help make the cafeteria food healthier.
Wow, they're serious about it.
They are, but of course, all this takes resources
Yeah.
and buy-in from the people at the top.
That's true. How do we convince them that this is worth investing in?
That's where the data comes in. Yeah, all the research you sent shows that focusing on well-being isn't just the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's also good for business.
Oh, interesting.
When leaders are healthy and supported,
Yeah.
they're more engaged, productive, and they're less likely to quit.
So it's good for everyone.
Exactly. There are tons of studies showing a link between well-being and better organizational performance.
What kind of performance?
Lower healthcare costs, fewer people calling out sick, better productivity, even patients getting better faster.
Wow. So it really is a win-win.
It is, but we can't forget about that stigma around mental health,
Right. That's still a big issue.
especially in healthcare.
How do we break down those barriers? How do we make it okay to ask for help?
That's a great question, and it's going to take a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
First, we need to normalize talking about mental health.
What do you mean?
Leaders need to be open about their own struggles.
To set an example.
Exactly. Create a safe space for others to do the same. Organizations can help by offering mental health awareness training and promoting resources like employee assistance programs.
So it's about making vulnerability a strength.
Exactly, and remembering that asking for help doesn't mean you're failing.
Yeah, that's so important.
There's a hospital in the South.
Okay.
They started a peer support program specifically for nurses and nurse leaders,
Oh, wow.
so they can connect with people who understand what they're going through.
That's awesome.
It's been really successful at breaking down stigma and creating a supportive environment.
That's amazing. It must be so helpful to know you're not alone.
Right, so we've talked a lot about organization.
We have.
But what about individual leadership?
Oh, that's a good point.
How can nurse leaders, no matter their position,
Yeah.
be examples of well-being and inspire their teams to take care of themselves?
Right.
Leading by example is key.
Okay.
When you, as a leader, prioritize your own well-being,
Mm-hmm.
you're sending a message that it's okay to take breaks, set boundaries, and focus on your health.
That's powerful.
It is, and you also have to be mindful of your own words and actions.
What do you mean?
Like, don't brag about working too much.
Oh, right.
Or send emails late at night.
Makes sense.
Encourage your team to take their vacation time.
Yeah.
And make it clear that it's okay to disconnect after work.
Those are good points.
Even small things, like starting meetings by checking in on how everyone's doing,
Oh, I like that.
can make a big difference.
It shows you care.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot today.
We have, from individual strategies to big organizational changes.
Mm-hmm.
But before we wrap up, I want to come back to that idea of the ripple effect.
Oh, you mean how when leaders take care of themselves, everyone benefits?
Exactly. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. What are some of the real, tangible benefits we see when well-being is a priority in healthcare? Well, the research shows a lot of positive outcomes.
Like what?
Less burnout and stress among healthcare professionals,
That's huge.
which leads to more job satisfaction and people staying in their jobs longer.
That's so important, especially with the nursing shortage.
Absolutely. And when nurses are less stressed and feel more supported,
Yeah.
it leads to better care for patients.
How's it?
Patients are happier, there are fewer medical errors, and people even get to go home from the hospital sooner.
Wow. So investing in well-being really does make a difference.
It does. And beyond those concrete benefits,
Mm-hmm.
there's also this sense of purpose and meaning.
That's nice.
When you work in a place where well-being is valued.
That's a great point. It's not just about being less stressed.
Right.
It's about creating a workplace where everyone feels valued and supported.
Absolutely.
I think that's a perfect place to stop for now.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll discuss some final thoughts and takeaways from our deep dive into wellness initiatives for nurse leaders. Okay, so we've really dug deep into these wellness initiatives for nurse leaders.
We have.
We've talked about the challenges, the possible solutions.
Mhm.
It's been pretty amazing to see how focusing on well-being can really impact everyone. Not just the leaders themselves, but their teams, the whole organization,
Absolutely.
even patient care.
It really does all
It's like this shift in how we think about things.
Right. For way too long.
Yeah.
We just assumed healthcare professionals, especially those in leadership,
Right.
should just be able to push through the stress and burnout.
Like it's just part of the job.
Yeah, but the research is clear.
What does it say?
This approach just doesn't work.
Hmm.
It's bad for people, and it makes the whole healthcare system less effective.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And the exciting thing is,
Yeah.
there are things we can do, both on our own and together,
Right.
to create a culture of well-being in healthcare.
So as we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with a vision of what's possible.
I like that.
What does a future look like where well-being is truly a priority in healthcare?
To me, it's a future where well-being isn't some afterthought,
Okay.
not a perk or something extra, but like,
Like a core part.
yeah, a fundamental part of a healthy healthcare system.
I like that.
Healthcare organizations would realize that investing in their staff's well-being isn't just the right thing to do, it's also smart business.
So they'd be more proactive.
Exactly, putting real well-being programs into place,
Okay.
making mental health resources easy to get,
Yeah.
offering flexible work arrangements,
Right.
building a culture of support and respect.
I love that. But what about individually?
You mean for nurse leaders themselves?
Yeah. How can they be part of this change?
It starts with recognizing that taking care of yourself
Uh-huh.
isn't weak, it's actually a sign of strength.
Okay.
Having the courage to set boundaries,
Yeah.
to ask for help when you need it,
Right.
and to show your team what healthy behavior looks like.
So leading by example.
Exactly. And remember, even small changes can make a difference.
That's good to hear.
Start with one or two things.
Like what?
Take a 10-minute walk each day.
Okay.
Try a few minutes of deep breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Really disconnect from work when you're off.
Those are all good.
And encourage your team to do the same.
Makes sense.
It's about weaving well-being into everyday life.
That's a great way to put it. It reminds me of that quote you shared.
Which one?
Wellness isn't just about self-care. It's about creating systems that sustain nurse leaders' health and resilience.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
When those systems work,
Yeah,
they help everyone, right?
that's the idea.
Happier, healthier nurses,
Yes.
more engaged teams, and in the end, better outcomes for patients.
That's the goal.
What a great reminder of why this is all so important.
It really is.
It's not just about feeling good. It's about building a healthcare system that can truly take care of us all.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been such an amazing conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into wellness initiatives for nurse leaders.
You're welcome.
We hope you learned a lot and feel ready to make a change.
I hope so.
Remember, even small steps can lead to big changes.
That's
Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.